Hello YouTube, and welcome to the first part of my playthrough of The Godfather 2. If you guys enjoy me doing playthroughs like this, please do drop a like. It does help the channel out a lot. Hope you guys like the suit that I'm wearing for this. We'll be cosplaying as Dominic on this. And so, Godfather 2, this is another open world game. We haven't played a crime game in some time, and so I really wanted to play a crime game. This game is a Mafia game. It actually follows the second Godfather movie. So if you've seen the second Godfather movie, you will definitely like this game. It's a sequel to the first Godfather game. The main character Aldo comes back, but we don't play as him. We play as Dominic in this game. And kind of similar gameplay to Godfather 1, but there's a few big differences, like especially with the crews. And the map is now divided into 3 cities. You have Havana, Miami, and New York versus Godfather 1, where it was just New York. But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoy this playthrough, and I know this game pretty well. I haven't played it in some time, but I'll be talking about it, and I'll talk about some history also, and some Godfather lore as we play through this game. So again, let's get this started. Hope that you guys enjoy this series.
The first person I ever called Godfather was Vito Corleone. I only met him a couple of times. I was just a soldier for the family back
So they're
then.
summarizing what happened in the first game
Times
here.
were tough. We were at war. Assassins even gunned down Vito. Sonny, his eldest, fought back while the Don recovered and paid the price. Michael, the youngest brother behind Fredo, took over the reins. He and Tom led a war against the 5 families. They pulled the strings, and my boss, Aldo Trapani, pulled the trigger.
That's the guy we played as in the first game.
Right-hand man now, running the family in New York. These days, opportunity is everywhere. But so are new families, fighting for their share. It took a man like Hyman Roth to get everyone to the table. We're gonna divide up Cuba, get richer than we ever could back in the States. This'll be good for the family, and for me. My name is Dominic.
Hope you guys like the suit.
Bring it here, let me see it. My age had better be correct. I am always accurate about my age.
May you live to 100, Mr. Roth.
Congratulations.
Cheers.
To your health. Salud.
Well, the doctors might disagree, but what do they know? These are wonderful things we've achieved in Cuba. This government knows how to
This
help
is based on
business
real
to
events. I'm going to
encourage it.
explain why in a little bit.
The hotels here are bigger and swankier than any of the rug joints we put up in Vegas.
Not all hotels.
Michael Corleone's accepted, of course. But the point I'm making is this, that now we have what we have always needed. Real partnership with a government.
Salud.
Cheers. Salud.
And at the time of my retirement, I turn over all my interests in the Cuba operation to you, my partners. To the Corleone family and Aldo Trapani, the Hotel Capri.
Grazie.
The Nacional will go to Rico Granados, and the Sevilla Biltmore to Samuel Mangano, here with us all the way from Sicily. The rest of you will also share in handling my non-casino operations. Gentlemen, rebels and petty criminals are Cuba's past. We are its future. L'chaim.
Gendan. Salute.
Hope you guys like my character. Tried to match the outfit as well that I made for him.
Fredo, you're just like your brother. You're smart.
I love this part. They have stuff like that. It's great foreshadowing.
What's on your mind, Dominic? How you enjoying Cuba?
It's great, Michael. I like the little things here, you know? Nice change of pace from New York.
That's good. When this deal is done, we're gonna do great things in this country. Tomorrow's a new year, my friend. The start of a new future for the Corleone family.
Salud. To the future. By the way, where did Aldo go?
He went downstairs for the New Year's celebration. You should talk to him. Make sure everything is set for tomorrow's meeting.
So this is December 31st, 1958. This is a very important day in Cuban history. I know Cuban history decently well, like to read a lot, and January 1st, 1959, one day after this, you know what happens? The Civil War is actually, the government in Cuba is losing the Civil War really badly at this point, really, really badly, and they're pretending like everything's
Your brother
fine.
is making the right decision, Prado.
I know. Mikey's got a good head on his shoulders.
Once the deal's done, you should open a hotel here.
I could do that. Someplace nice. For all the high rollers.
Fredo, you having a good time?
Hey, Dominic. Yeah, sure. I'm loving it here.
Yeah, there's gonna be a big New Year's celebration at midnight, downstairs.
Yeah, even the president's gonna be there. It's gonna be huge. I'll see you down there, all right?
You mean the dictator, because Cuba didn't have a president at this time, didn't even have a president after the revolution, it just had dictators. Cuba's had a really bad history.
You're Dominic, right? Aldo's underboss in New York. I'm Hyman Roth.
Mr. Roth, it's an honor. Happy birthday.
Thank you. This is quite a country, isn't it? I think I'll move here from Florida once the deal is complete. Let Michael take care of things back home.
So, basically what's been going on in Cuba is Cuba has been in a civil war for, years in the 50s. And,
For me, Cuba
this guy here is, Don, Mangano. He's from Sicily.
Corleone ponied up $2 million in cash. Supazzo, how can I compete with that? Which one are you again?
My name is Dominic. I'm with Aldo Trapani from New York.
See, that's right. I'm Samuel. Samuel Mangano. Molto lieto.
I'm Rico. Rico Granados. And you would be?
Dominic. I work for Aldo Trapani in New York.
Ah, Michael Corleone's man. I know Trapani. Tried to bring him in on a land deal in Florida. He's a smart man. The property is under 6 fucking feet of swamp right now.
Okay. So basically what happened is that Cuba is actually a military dictatorship at this time. It's actually before the communists and Castro actually end up taking power.
Hola. Enjoy the fiesta.
In 1952, this man called Fulgencio Batista, he was a military officer. He was running for president, but he overthrew the government in a coup and declared himself president for life. So Cuba's been a dictatorship for 7 years, and a lot of people wanted change in Cuba.
Año or something?
Close. It's Feliz Año Nuevo.
So a lot of people wanted change in Cuba, but and this is one of the things that's misunderstood about the Cuban Revolution. People think that everybody that fought against the government in the Cuban Revolution was a communist, which is not true. There's plenty of people that wanted change. There's even a lot of Americans that actually fought in the Cuban Revolution as volunteers. People wanted change in Cuba. They wanted the dictator gone. The problem is what happened was the Castro ended up taking over afterwards, and basically anybody who didn't agree with Castro, even if you fought on the side of the revolution, he would have you imprisoned or killed. So, Castro was actually leading the 26th of July movement, which was a left-wing group that fought in the Civil War, and at this time, nobody even really knew who Castro was. A lot of people, they knew he was a revolutionary, but the Americans didn't really even know who he was fully, the Soviets didn't know who he was fully, and then basically like a year after Castro had taken over, he declared himself communist, declared Cuba a socialist state, and then he had, plenty of the people that fought on Castro's side, he had imprisoned. So this guy here is Aldo Trapani. He's the guy that you actually played as in Godfather 1. Remember Godfather 1? We played as him in the first game.
Boss, you all right? Michael wanted me to make sure that everything's set for tomorrow's meeting.
Don't worry about it, Dominic. It's taken care of. I'm just anxious to get back to New York. I don't like it here. I don't trust what the president says, about the rebels. I just want to get out of here.
These rebels are nothing, and don't worry, Aldo.
Come on, Aldo. You really think the rebels are gonna be a problem?
Yeah, I do. You know what I saw on my way over here? I saw a rebel being arrested. And instead of being taken alive, he exploded a grenade hidden in his jacket. They can win.
Okay, so this is a reference to the movie. So in the movie, Michael actually sees a Cuban rebel being arrested and detonates a grenade and kills himself and the commander. And Michael says that to Hyman Roth. And Hyman Roth, and Hyman Roth says, "What is this about?" Michael says that soldiers get paid, rebels don't. And Hyman says, "What is your point?" And Michael's point is that they can win. Now, what does that mean exactly? When rebels, think about it. It's a great quote from Michael Corleone. Soldiers get paid, rebels don't. Do you know what that means? That means that the soldiers who are defending the dictator, because it's Batista in this case, they don't believe in what the dictator is doing. There might be some, like, loyalists, but most of the soldiers are just, you know, people who are just getting paid to do this. They don't really care about the dictator. Whereas the rebels have a cause. They have something that they believe in, and they're willing to die for that. And that's the point. That's what Michael means when he says that the rebels can win. And he says, it's the president's
The president
problem.
can control the violence. Don't let it bother you.
He's just sitting on his ass while Cuba gets taken over.
That's true.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Michael's giving him $2 million as a gift, so maybe he knows something I don't. Michael.
So, yeah, I just want to pause it because there's a next scene coming up. So yeah, if you know Cuba's history, this part of the movie of Cuba and also in the video game is actually pretty important. But what I was saying when this is based on like real events is the Mafia in real life did actually invest in Cuba. Now the Corleone family, this is a fictional family made for the book and the movie and the game. But in real life, several Mafia families went to Cuba. They invested heavily into Cuba. They invested in the casinos, hotels, and stuff like that. And they were investing with dirty money. So they had dirty blood money that they brought over from the U.S. into Cuba. They were pouring into Cuba. And like I said, the government of Cuba was massively corrupt. Batista was, an evil dictator. And so he knew that the Mafia was bringing in blood money and, blood cash and all this other stuff. And he worked with them. He took bribes from them. And the Mafia built up casinos and hotels. And no matter what, nobody could touch the Mafia in Cuba because Batista was pretty much in league. After the Cuban Revolution, the Mafia had lost everything in the country. And at this time, it's actually kind of realistic how you see Havana, because this is Havana, the capital of Cuba, is the government of Cuba was pretending like everything was going according to plan, like everything was under control, but in reality it wasn't. The rebels had taken over a huge amount of the country, and the government was about to collapse, and yet they were throwing lavish parties like this. It's actually kind of similar to Nazi Germany, because Nazi Germany, in like its last few weeks, the Nazi elites were actually throwing lavish parties. They were pretending like they were winning the war, like everything was going according to plan. The Soviets were breaking through in the east, and the U.S. was breaking through in the west, and it was just a matter of time until the dictatorship in Germany was going to collapse. Very similar here. They were throwing all these lavish parties, pretending like everything's normal, and they were also deceiving the Cuban public. The Cuban public, like in the city like Havana, didn't know exactly what the situation was like outside. And actually, what actually happens is that the rebels are actually approaching the capital at this time. They're really close. So January 1st, 1959 is actually when the Cuban Civil War pretty much ended. What actually happened was the Battle of Santa Clara was happening at the same time. It was another Cuban major city. I don't remember how far it was from Havana, but basically what happened was there was an armored train coming in with thousands of Cuban soldiers, and Che Guevara, he was one of the leaders of the revolution at the time. Che Guevara had actually derailed the train, so the train got derailed and killed hundreds of Cuban soldiers, and the leaders had fled, and then at this point Batista, the dictator, had fled the country.
Oh, Fredo, the countdown's about to start.
Is everything set for tomorrow's meeting?
Of course, Michael, don't worry about a thing.
Oh, this.
Due to serious setbacks to our troops in Guantanamo and Santiago, my position in Cuba is untenable. I am resigning from office to avoid further bloodshed. Regresen a sus hogares. Abandonen sus carros en el hotel. Yo debo dejar la ciudad inmediatamente. I wish you all good luck.
There's a plane waiting for us.
Salud.
Go. Don't make a big thing about it. Get us out of here, Aldo.
If somebody could tell me in the comments what Batista said there in the Spanish part, he probably said the same thing he said in English, but let me know what he said if anybody can translate that. But yeah, so this is what happens. The president flees at the last moment, dictator I should say. He flees at the last moment, and the rebels are approaching the Havana.
Lead on.
Press LT for a left punch, press RT for a right punch. Okay.
Somebody do something!
How could you?
Good job.
Okay, press LT to grab. Okay.
Jesus, sounds like a huge mob outside.
They're rioters. They're not...
The game is, I'm playing on the PC, by the way. The game is experiencing like a little bit of frame tearing a little bit. I'm gonna figure it out after this playthrough, though, what's causing that specifically, or this part, I should say. Okay. So this is just such a complicated, complicated, event that you got going on, because people had a right to want change, and they had a right to, rebel and be angry. But okay, with a gun out, hold LT for more accuracy. Okay. Kind of weird how Dominic is carrying a Luger, German handgun. Okay, we're here. Oh. Oh, damn. Pistol's kind of inaccurate. Got him. Okay, there we go. That's the thing about the Godfather games. One thing I liked about them is that the bullet doesn't always go where you aim. Some guns are more accurate than others.
2 million gone.
Okay, Tommy gun. And the thing, what I've always wondered about this, what I've wondered about the movie, is I wondered whether Hyman Roth knew that Cuba was gonna fall. That's what I was always really curious about, because I wonder if he played that out.
Wait up, I can get us through here.
Aldo!
So that's what happens to Aldo. Aldo's fate. So the guy that you played as in the first game died. This upset actually a lot of people when The Godfather 2 came out, because we played as him for the first game and pretty much took over all of New York with him, just for him to go out like that. But if you notice what the Cuban sniper rebel sniper was actually wearing, like typical, like the Castro uniform, you know, green and green hat. But a lot of the rebels didn't actually have those uniforms at the time.
Look, Jesus, there's so many of them. Michael, I'm sorry. Aldo
was family.
I can help. When we get back to New York...
I want you to make sure his mother's taken care of.
Okay, Mikey. Okay.
What do we do now?
Roth's plan for Cuba was the one thing keeping the families from tearing at each other's throats. We needed this country.
You don't think the rebels are gonna win?
They've already won, Fredo.
They have, yeah.
Michael, I mean, what do we do now? Our family. What about us?
Nobody was going to touch New York while Aldo was in charge. Everyone will want a peace now. His own men will probably turn on each other if they think it's to their advantage. It's only a few of them I trust anyway. But I trust you with my life. Dominic, I want you to be boss. And I want you to have your own family. I trust that you can run New York, Dominic. Will you do this for me?
Yes, Michael. I will.
So we've escaped, and this game has 3 maps in it: Havana, Miami, and New York.
Tony and Carmine Rosado are out.
Out for good. Took what they had, started their own gangs.
Took what we had.
It's Hyman Roth in Florida.
He's backing up those sons of bitches. The Rosados never had the Corleone. And now what? They're taking over, taking hostages. Not without help. Not without Roth.
Frank, Hyman Roth isn't a part of this.
Mikey's right, Frank. The Rosado brothers always been angry. Ever since Clemenza
died? No. That was no heart attack.
In any case, that's the situation. We know they're running sanitation and construction, and we know Carmine's fixing fights.
Yeah, and who's too? Ain't that Roth's game? And La Vegana? Junk? Dope? I want him dead!
Frank Pentangeli. You've been loyal to this family for years.
I know, Michael.
But after Cuba, my business with Hyman Roth is very important. These accusations aren't fair to him or me.
Fair? You give your loyalty to him before your own...
Michael is a genius in this.
Frankie, you know my father did business with Hyman Roth. He respected him.
Your father did business with Hyman Roth. Your father respected Hyman Roth. But your father never trusted Hyman Roth.
Are you through? Good. Dominic, stay focused on the Rosado brothers. Carmine's weak. Always has been. Send him a message. Prove to me that I was right about you.
So, a few more things that I wanted to cover here. So, Michael is like the smartest Don that I've ever seen in, like, a video game or a movie. Like, the smartest fictional mafia boss I've ever seen. And basically, Michael's tactic is to make himself weak. And he's also, when he tells everybody that he trusts Hyman Roth, the reason Michael is, saying that is because he wants to see, how people are going to react to that. He wants to see who's loyal to him. He's also feigning weakness, by pretending like he's trusting Hyman Roth fully, because in the back of his head, Michael doesn't trust Hyman Roth fully. He's suspicious of Hyman Roth at this point because there's a hit on Michael. I wish they would have shown the hit on Michael in this game. They didn't show it, but in the movie, there's a big scene with that. But Michael is pretending like he's weak, pretending like he trusts Hyman Roth. So he's trying to get on Hyman Roth's good side, lure Hyman Roth into a false sense of security. Also, what I was trying to say about Cuba earlier is, and I'll talk more about Cuba because there's more missions later on, but Cuba is such the revolution in Cuba is such a complicated thing, because like I said, a lot of people think that for some reason that everybody who fought in the Cuban Revolution against the government was a communist, but no, there's people who actually wanted democratic change in Cuba. There was people who actually fought on the Cuban Revolution that wanted to get rid of the dictator. Batista was a scumbag. The guy who ran Cuba, he deserved to get overthrown, but it was that, not everybody who wanted him overthrown supported a communist dictatorship. And so, like I said, nobody knew who Castro was at this time. They didn't know. The CIA didn't know who he fully was. The KGB and the Soviet Union didn't know who he fully was. And then, like a year after Castro took power, he declared Cuba a socialist state, and he tried to ally with the USSR. And even the Soviets weren't prepared for that. They weren't prepared to have, an ally in the Western world. And one of the reasons that Castro had hated the United States was because the U.S. had actually supported Batista. So the U.S. government had supported him for a long time, and because Batista was an anti-communist in the area. And this is one of the failures of American foreign policy at the same time too, is that during the Cold War, the U.S. would basically support anybody who wasn't a communist. And just because somebody wasn't a communist doesn't make them a good person. And because of that, the CIA supported some really horrible dictators. The Soviets supported some really bad dictators also. It was the same thing with them. The Soviets, if anybody hated the U.S., the Soviets would just throw AKs at them. So it was similar, it worked both ways. The thing is, that's what the U.S. government did. The American public, on the other hand, was different. The majority of the American public actually supported the Cuban Revolution. They didn't support communism because, like I said, nobody knew that this was going to turn into a communist revolution at the time. Most Americans, saw what was going on in Cuba and they felt sympathetic. They saw people poor people trying to overthrow a brutal dictator, and so a lot of people were sympathetic to that. There was Americans who fought in the Cuban Revolution. A guy's name was Morgan. I don't remember his first name, but Morgan. He was an American who fought in the Cuban Revolution. He was famous. He was a commander in the Cuban Revolution, and he has a very sad story. His story is very sad because when he he helped to overthrow Batista. He thought he was fighting for democracy and change in Cuba. And what actually happened was when there was talk that Castro was a communist, Morgan actually came out and said that Castro isn't a communist. I can vouch for him. You know, he's a good guy and everything like that. And then a year later, you saw what happened. Morgan actually got arrested by Castro and ended up getting executed. So this is, you know, a guy who fought on the side of the Cuban Revolution. He fought for democracy and freedom, only to be betrayed by Castro and shot and killed. Castro was not a good man himself. Castro was, you know, a scumbag as well. But like I said, Cuba has such a sad history because they literally went from one dictatorship to another. You know, I think Cuba would have been a much better country today if it had transitioned to a democracy. It would have been a much richer and better country today, but Castro took over, turned it into a communist dictatorship, and, you know, that's pretty much the rest of the story, and I'll talk more about this, but yeah, I just like history a lot and like to read, and I read Cuba's history a lot too. I know a bit about it, but to this day, the Cuban government actually uses anti-American propaganda, and they will say that the U.S. had supported Batista. They'll say that, oh, the Americans supported a dictatorship in Cuba, and they supported Batista. That was the U.S. government, not the American people, and it was this was, you know, over 60 years ago. And, you know, today, nobody in America today supports, you know, the return of Batista's dictatorship. Batista's been long dead for some time, but nobody supports that kind of dictatorship coming back in Cuba. People want actual democratic change. But the Cuban government spins this as propaganda, and they'll say that the U.S. supported Batista, which, like I said, it was the government, not the people, who did that. And the government, the CIA, messed up. Because the CIA could have had an ally in Cuba, but instead, by supporting a dictatorship, you know, they allowed it. So the CIA is at fault also for Cuba falling to communism.
Frank, I'm gonna take care of Carmine Rosado. Let me deal with him.
Of course you will. You're the boss, and Carmine's a Stugatz. Couldn't find his ass if he was sitting on his two hands. But that stupid bum's got half of New York. Don't that tell you something? That someone's pulling his strings?
Maybe. But whoever it is, it ain't Roth. And Carmine's men are still loyal to him.
Well, loyalty counts. For something. Even with the Rosado brothers.
It means something to me too, Frank. I can't take on Carmine by myself. I need people. People that I can trust. Do you have any loyal button men that I could enlist?
Sure, Dominic. I drove here with a few associates. They're good men. They've all earned their bones. I think they're ready to be made. You'd be doing one of them an honor if you choose to bring him into your family.
Okay, so now we're talking about the movie, because I know the movie also. The Rosado brothers had worked for the Corleones, and what actually happened was after the Cuba disaster, they rebelled against the Corleones. In the game, though, Aldo was their boss, and after Aldo died, they basically said, you know what, screw this, we're gonna be our own bosses, and we're gonna take over. So this is basically like the new system in the Godfather 2. The Godfather, the Don's Edition, had like some crew members you could call in for help, but they didn't really have special abilities. They just had more health and damage. But the crew in Godfather 2, like, you actually promote people from into made men, soldiers, capo regimes, you know, consiglieres, underboss, I believe, and they each have different abilities. So let's see here.
I need a good soldier, someone who can hold his own. That you?
I've heard good things about you, Dominic. You take care of you guys.
What's your background?
So, what's your story?
I did a hitch in Sing Sing a few years back. Know what I learned? Prison stinks and fistfights hurt. That's why I always carry a piece.
Know any good tricks of the trade?
Arson's my thing. I like to burn stuff. I'll burn anything. Burned down a cop station once, if you can believe that.
Okay, so this guy's an arsonist. That's like one of the classes. Arsonists will help you burn down buildings and create distractions. Basic, okay, weapon license. An arsonist is a master of fire. By setting a flame to propane tanks, bars, hedges, and other flammable objects, he can create a diversion or get you into accessible areas. Roy Giordano, a brutal enforcer with reputation for bare-knuckle fighting, honed his arson skills in Pentangeli's gang.
I'll keep you in mind, but right now, I need someone different.
Okay, let's talk to the other guy, see what his story is.
You know who I am? Then I think you know why I'm here.
You want a guy who finishes the job, whatever it is. You pick me.
What's your story? Tell me about yourself.
I got customers I never laid a hand on. I mean, the threat of a fight is more powerful than a fight itself, right? Because you get a guy believing that you're gonna tattoo his face and he'll pay.
You gotta be handy with something, right?
Well, I got shot as a kid, cleaning out a hardware store. And after that, I made sure I knew how to patch myself up.
Joe Primanti, a reliable earner who excels at the shakedown, learned basic first aid working in Pentangeli's gang. A medic should be part of every crew. When he's around, falling in battle isn't the end of the world. Given enough time, he can revive you and your family members. Okay.
Sorry. It's not the right time for you.
And talk to Fredo. I like how you have this extra dialogue.
What Frank was saying earlier. Do you believe it?
About Mr. Roth and the Rosados? Nah, Frankie's a good enforcer, but he can't see things like Mike can. Mr. Roth's been good to us. Always has been.
Okay, we're gonna get the arsonist
to be a part of your crew. We're gonna do some business?
You're in. Welcome to the family.
Okay, so this is recruit and promote made men in your family. I like this part. You know, a lot of people say that Godfather 1 is like the best game because of like the big map, but I also like, you know, the family trees in Godfather 2. So both of them are good games. I don't think you can really say that Godfather 2 is a bad game. Recruit and promote made men in your family. Find new recruits of businesses that you control. You can pick up to 3 made men at a time to travel with you and your crew. Use the rest to defend, take over, or bomb rival family businesses. You can take any of your made men online to compete for honors. Access the pause menu to play online. Okay. Okay, so he's a soldier, and you know I'm the Don. Consigliere. This is the real life Mafia tree. This isn't just something made up for the game. So this is the Mafia ranking system. So basically, there's only one level below this. There's associates. And associate is the lowest level in the Mafia. Associates are people basically who associate with the Mafia. They can be anything. An associate can be like, you know, basically a thug that you hire on the street to beat somebody up. Or they could even be like, you know, running a chop shop. You know, somebody that works with the Mafia, you bring stolen cars to them, you know, they strip them for parts and give you cash for it. So an associate could be somebody that runs an illegal business, all the way to somebody who's like just a street thug that you hire. But it's basically just somebody the Mafia associates with. Now, some associates they regard as more important than others, some they just regard as disposable. But then after associate, you got soldiers. And soldiers are basically, you know, full members of the Mafia. They're, you know, made men at that point. Soldiers can run illegal businesses also, you know, stuff like that, and, you know, make the mob some cash. But soldiers are mostly people who you think of when, like, you know, you have a hitman, like a professional hitman, not just some, you know, amateur thug, but like a professional Mafia hitman that, like, you know, goes in, gets rid of a target for them, and gets out. That would typically be like a soldier, like, you know, somebody the boss will send to, like, take care of dirty things. And a soldier will usually be assigned to a crew. And Mafias usually big families usually have like 2 to 3 crews. And each crew is run by a capo, or a capo regime. Capo is also known as a captain. A captain in a Mafia typically runs the illegal business of the Mafia. They will typically, and each captain runs a specific section of the organization. Like one captain might run a prostitution business. Another captain might run a gambling business. Another captain might run a drug business, though the Italian Mafia doesn't typically get involved in drugs, but some do. But the point is that each capo runs a specific section of the Mafia's business and gives a cut to the boss, and has soldiers assigned to them typically. And then afterwards you have the underboss. Underboss is basically the guy who's typically in charge of security. So an underboss in the Mafia is typically in charge of the security. They will check up on all the businesses. They're basically the boss's go-to guy. So they're number 2 in the organization. They'll go to all the businesses and they'll say, hey, are you doing what the boss told you to do? And, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, and also the underboss will also be temporary boss sometimes. When the boss needs to go on a trip somewhere, a business trip, you know, in another state or another country or something like that, the underboss will be temporary boss until the boss returns. And the underboss has to be somebody that the boss trusts heavily. Actually, typically it's their best friend or a family member is the underboss. The underboss is almost never like somebody that the boss doesn't like. It's almost always like a best friend, childhood friend, or it's of close family members. You know, somebody that the boss knows isn't going to screw them over because, you know, they're second in command. You know, you want somebody that you trust fully in that. And also, sometimes an underboss can be temporary boss even for years. So if the boss goes into prison for like a few years, the underboss will become temporary boss, and then when the boss gets out, that temporary boss becomes underboss again. And then Don is basically boss, basically pretty much says it all. Whatever he says is word. So whatever the boss says, everybody in the organization has to listen to him, no matter what. You know, the boss controls pretty much the whole thing together. And then you have Consigliere. Now, Consigliere is mixed up with underboss a lot of times. People think that it's the same thing, but it's not. Consigliere is basically the advisor to the Don. And it's a very powerful position. Very powerful. The underboss is a little bit more powerful, but the Consigliere is still powerful. Consigliere, I would say, is third in command, where Capos, you know, they're more powerful than Capos. Consigliere is basically the advisor to the Don. And like, it's similar to the underboss, where it's going to be either like a best friend or a close family member. That's what's going to be. A Consigliere is going to be somebody who gives advice to the Don. He looks at stuff that's going on, and is going to tell the Don, you should do this or don't do that. Just give basically a second-hand opinion. You know, tell him what to do. And Consiglieres are usually very smart people. They're very, very smart, and they can they can predict things, handle stuff. Like, for example, in The Sopranos. Anybody seen The Sopranos? Like Silvio in The Sopranos is a very smart consigliere. Very smart. He gives Tony really good advice. He can see through people, and he's extremely loyal. He's the type of consigliere that any type of boss would want. But the reason that consiglieres are not bosses, some of them do end up becoming bosses later on. The reason they're not bosses is because they're typically not leadership material. They're good for giving advice, and they're good for seeing through people, but they're not the type of people that typically you want to be leader. So that's why you have an advisor also. But that's pretty much that for that. I know I like to talk a lot about this, but I know Mafia rankings pretty well, and and I know these movies well, and I also know history a lot. So I hope I'm not boring anybody with my talk, but I like talking about these things and explaining them.
Frank's a good man, but his temper can be a problem. These accusations about Hyman Roth have to stop. They're insulting to us both.
I'll keep an eye on him. Don't worry.
Good. Dominic, just remember to stay focused. You're boss now. Make a name for yourself. Let Carmine know that you run New York.
And also, for people wondering, why doesn't...
Crime is like any other profession. The key to success is crushing the competition. This is your goal. Take over every racket and every business, and eliminate any rival family who stands in your way. What's stopping you? The other families will ruthlessly defend their turf and try to take back places that you control. You can't stop them by yourself. If you want to win, expand your family, improve your crew members' skills, and hire guards to protect your territory. And most importantly, learn to use the bonuses you'll earn from controlling crime rings. Do this, and you'll know what it means to be called a Don.
Also, for people wondering, why doesn't Michael Corleone look like Al Pacino? It's because the people who made The Godfather the game didn't have the rights to Michael Corleone's face. That's why all the other characters look like the movie characters except Michael. They didn't have the rights to his face. The people who made the Scarface game had the rights to Al Pacino's face. So that's
Hey, what kind of car was that you used to drive?
If we can knock off one of Carmine's rackets, it'll break his hold on the cops. What is it, boss?
What's the word?
So these guys are pretty much your associates, you know. They're like, you know, your thugs on the street. And New York as a map looks very different than it looks very different than New York did in Godfather 1. Like, you can see, it's much smaller. But that's because, you know, we got three cities in this. Let me see here. Am I able to look at the other family trees? I'm really curious if I can do that. The Don's connections, do favors for anyone. Okay. Cash or information. Oh, this is your businesses. Okay. Oh, and you can choose. You can tell people to bomb or do an attempted takeover. So you don't need. I forgot about this. You can send your guys to try to take over businesses, and there's like a % chance that they'll succeed.
His brothels. Those damn whorehouses are giving him too much influence.
That's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna start with the cat house, the one fronted by that bakery.
I also like, your guys have dialogue with them, like every mission when you talk to them, so they're not just like, you know, NPCs that follow you around. You actually talk to them.
Oye, you looking for...
In our life, the key to success is intimidation. A dead man is useless to us, but turn up the pressure and you'll have the upper hand. Everyone's got 2 points. The point that he'll break and the point he'll fight back. Pressure a man past his breaking point, and he'll do whatever you want. Getting him there takes some creativity. Throw him around, maybe. Show him the view. And with some men, the more you push them, the more you'll profit. Or you can find their weak spot. Everyone's got one. Push someone too far, though, and you'll have a fight on your hands. Or worse, a dead body. But this isn't the end of the world. You can leave and try again later.
So this is similar to the first game. You take over these businesses, protection rackets, and there's two people that mafias typically will not kill in their line of business, and that's they will typically not kill business owners and people who owe them money. Now the reason for that, the only time they'll actually kill somebody who owes them money is when they know they'll never get that money back. And they probably do that as a message mostly. But think about it this way: the reason why doesn't the mafia kill somebody who owes them money? Because dead men can't pay money back. So a loan shark is typically not going to kill somebody who owes them money. They're going to come to their house, beat them up, take their stuff, but typically they're not going to kill them. And business owners, if they kill them, there's nobody to run the business for them.
All right. You gonna let me through?
Hell no, this joint's private.
That wasn't a good way to start that. Okay.
Fuck with me.
What's that? We can't hear you.
Nobody hits me.
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
Whoa, fuck, here he is.
Their blood is on your hands.
All right, Mac, I give up.
Who's gonna clean up the place when you're dead? Let me in, before I really lose my temper.
Okay, I'll let you through.
Okay, there we go. I'm gonna have to turn off the music, guys. I wish I could play it, but it's just the music Mafia. Ironically, we're playing a Mafia game, but the music Mafia will claim the video like crazy.
Hey, baby, why don't you take a picture?
You must have some fucking balls meeting me like this.
Where are your friends now, huh? Well, clearly they ain't protecting you. So why don't you let me run things, huh?
Never. This racket belongs to me, got it?
Ooh, no, that's not a good weak spot grabs. So when you find their weak spot, you can actually extort them for more money.
Quit slamming me!
Okay, let's...
Look at him. He's toast. If you talk to him now, he'll give in. But you could try shaking him down for more.
You willing to die for this shithole? Because that's what's gonna happen.
Fine, the place is yours. I just hope you know what you're getting into.
The lifeblood of organized crime is our rackets. Rackets are where we make the most of our money. Yeah, I guess this part was muted because it's I turned off the music. Each racket is part of a bigger picture. There's all kinds of crime rings out there: prostitution, gun smuggling, chop shops. And each one is made up by 2 or more rackets. Whoever controls every racket in the crime ring is going to be flush with cash, but more importantly, they'll receive a special bonus like bulletproof vests or armored cars. These bonuses are key to building an empire. You know this, and your enemies know this. And so don't expect them to cooperate next time you pay them a visit.
He's over there. And the rope for you, asshole.
This ain't the school.
Some of Rosato's guys are here.
Doing this life.
You didn't give me any other choice.
Wait till I break the hook.
Yes. Hurry, help me. Please don't. You
fight.
There we go. That's that taken care of. Okay, so the business is now ours, is taken over, and now what we're gonna do is, hang on, more info. Sweet Life Bakery, manage guards. Okay, so we're gonna want guards, and unlike in the Scarface game, I think the guards actually, unlike in the Scarface game, I think the guards actually, the guards will actually help. Okay, put in, I guess we'll do 5 guards for now. Okay.
Things are about to get ugly.
Whoa, fuck, here he is.
Dominic. Yeah, the pussy here ain't bad. But if I was running the place, it'd be making 10 times what it's pulling in now. It's got potential. Like you. You're real boss material, Dominic. What's your next move?
I want to bring in more income, keep this place guarded, and take Carmine down a few notches while I'm at it.
That's a good plan. Yeah, be an earner. Best bet is to launder some money through a legit business. A bar, a restaurant, whatever. Cut a deal with a shopkeeper. He'll throw a little your way, and you'll get a bigger cut from your rackets.
What's the Rosado
With
story?
the Rosado brothers back in Clemenza's day. What do you know about them?
They used to be friendly to us. But Tony always thought he deserved more. Him turning I can understand, but Carmine, he's a stupid fuck. Must be out of his mind if he thinks he can be a Don.
Anything else you can tell me?
Sure, but keep this between you and me. I don't like what's happened to this city. I work with Don Vito, I work with Clemenza, and I don't have to tell you they deserve respect. But it's like these last 10 years, they don't mean nothing. My gang's across the bridge, scraping by, and the families here recruit scum. They recruit filth. They got no respect for how we do business. It ain't right.
Extortion used to be an enforcer's game, hitting up merchants for spare change. Today, the stakes are higher. You already know the basics. Find a small store and rough up the owner. He'll pay you what he can. It's not much, but every little bit counts. Here's the important part, though. Once you control a place, it acts as a front. Front's a way to hide dirty cash. Fronts can launder money earned from your rackets, yeah, like I said. Each one you control gives you bonus to your entire income. To get a merchant to play along, you gotta pressure him. Slam him into a wall, throw him through a window. Maybe smash up his store or rough up his customers. Sometimes you have to show him who's boss. Just remember, it's only business. This is also, mafias do this stuff in real life. So I guess we'll probably end it off here. But what I was gonna say was, what a front basically is a front is a legal business that's technically an illegal business, if that makes sense. So on the outside, it seems legit, but on the inside, it's not. And a perfect example of this is the bakery here. You have a, you have a shop that's, people coming in to, buy cakes and other, cupcakes and other stuff. But in the back, it's actually a prostitution racket. But there's other fronts where they won't even have like a back room, but instead they'll just be a place to hide dirty cash. So the mafia will cause the reason they own casinos is because casinos are a really good way to hide cash. But yeah, it's they basically have like a business that generates them some money, but the main source of their money is illegal money. And then for tax reasons, when they're doing their taxes, they say, oh, we made all this money from this business here. And the mafia loves cash businesses. They hate businesses that rely mostly on credit cards because credit cards are a lot easier to track. Cash is just so much harder to track. And because of that, in this day, everybody used cash pretty much in the 1950s. And so because of that, the mafia was very successful. Now with credit cards and stuff like that, it's a lot harder for the mafia to do what they used to do. So they'll hide their dirty cash in businesses like this. Like when I was growing up in New York, there were there was this one mafia family called the Genovese family, and Genovese actually had several mafia fronts around the city, and even in my neighborhood, I saw some. Basically, they ran these series of stores around New York called Genovese Pharmacy. That's basically what they were. I saw, I've seen these pharmacies before. They look like just regular stores, and the people that work in the pharmacies have nothing to do with the mafia. They're just regular workers. The question is, they probably know that it's probably, it was probably run by the mafia. Genovese pharmacies don't really exist anymore. I think they're all gone. But the Genovese family had used those pharmacies as a front to hide their cash. But that was pretty much that. So I hope that you guys enjoy this video. This is going to be like a very interesting playthrough, because as I play through this game, I'll be explaining like a lot of the stuff and like the movies and the history and like, mafias and stuff. Oh, and one other thing I forgot is like one thing that was kind of unrealistic was how when you just make the soldier like a made man. Somebody doesn't become a made man until years in the mafia, usually. It's not like, you just meet the guy and he becomes a made man. It's somebody that typically proven themselves and that the mafia can trust. Also, I'm not defending the mafia in any way, they're scumbags, they're horrible people, but I'm just explaining, how they run things and, their whole organization. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this part. See you on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day.